Welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. Today I'm going to explore the journey of the gorgeous Venus sashaying her way through the sign of Libra, which she rules. This starts on the 29th of August and goes on for 25 days through to the 23rd of September. Venus in Libra is very much about charm, diplomacy, relating skillfully. We all have an opportunity to embrace this energy, but also to try to find a greater sense of balance in lots of different parts of our existence. But as Venus moves into the sign of Libra, she links with Pluto in the air sign of Aquarius. These two haven't linked together across these two signs for over 220 years, so it's incredibly powerful. But also, as I'll share on screen shortly through the event chart, there are some other competing and rather more complex influences that could provide a backdrop through this 25-day period that we need to be mindful of. I'm going to go through all the themes of Venus. Also, Venus is going to be forging a stunning alliance at the heart of September, which I'm really excited to share about, so please stay with me for that. Then I'll go on to go through each of the 12 signs from Aries through to Pisces to give you a flavour of what you can expect in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. It's lovely to have your company. If you're new here and have any thoughts, please do share them. This is very much a community. If you're a returning visitor, all your views and interactions are truly appreciated. Please help the channel to thrive. If you've yet to subscribe, click that sub button, but also the bell notification symbol. Now, Venus in Libra is very much about relating, and I want to tell you about a very unique app that's about to be launched. Matchful.me is a relationship app that's based on Western tropical astrology, but also very deep psychological profiling. It's not based on sun signs. It's much, much more detailed than that. But sometimes when I do videos on Venus, people will say, I'm not looking for a relationship, and that's great. But remember, we all have a relationship with ourselves, with our pets, neighbours, family members, colleagues and friends. And Matchful can help you to understand those relationships. It doesn't have to just be in the romantic dimension, but please check it out underneath this video. If you put Patrick into the coupon code, you can get 25% off until it launches, so please do seize that opportunity. And just briefly, I'm a consulting astrologer. If you'd like to have a one-to-one with me, please check out my testimonials below. I don't edit these. I share them as is. See how other people have experienced working with me. And also, if you'd like to take advantage of my year 2025 personal horoscope offer, if you order your transit forecast now, I give you the rest of this year free, plus 30% off if you also order your life roadmap report. The combination of all this information is stunning and will give you searing insights to guide your moves. Totally unique to each person they're produced for. Please see underneath for more. So first of all, I wanted to share some of the archetypes of Venus. Through its rulership of the earth sign of Taurus, it's very much about the more sensuous, even sensual dimension. It's our appreciation of resources, self-worth, values, everyday money, but it can be to do with food, but also what we make and create. Things like crafting, for example, where it's creative, but it has some kind of tangible benefit too. And Venus in that area of our situations gives us that much more lusty vibe that comes with Venus, that more desirous energy. But its rulership of Libra is much more coquettish. It's much more about the delicacy of relating. Sometimes that old saying, it's not what we say, it's how that we say it, is very much about Venus in Libra, because if we measure our words, sometimes it can actually create an outcome which is much more beneficial to us. And as this event begins, that link between Venus and Pluto, the first time for 220 years, through two air signs, is really encouraging us to articulate and ventilate affection and warmth to the people we can feel it from, but very deeply, because Pluto is about that depth. So if you are in a relationship which is making progress, this could be a seminal moment in the journey. However, Venus can have its downsides, not just in the sign of Libra, but in the seventh house of any natal chart, because subjects tend to be very skilled at listening to other people, to flexing into their needs, but can lose, to a degree, a little bit of identity, because the seventh house is the opposite of the first house. The first house, very much about the ascendant, which obviously is ruled by Mars. So that's where we're thrusting into our new journey on the planet and creating our identity. The seventh house is where we need to pause and find that connection to others. So harmony is part of the theme, but we shouldn't create harmony to the degree that we're making sure that everyone else feels okay, but we're not getting our needs met. So it is a delicate balance in keeping with the equilibrium of the sign of Libra and what it needs. But it's also a cardinal sign. We should never underestimate the power of Libra. And we also are going to have the autumnal equinox evolving through the process of this transit. So that's also very important. So on the 23rd of September, we have the third cardinal quadrant comes in, providing a backdrop of energy all about relating for the following 13 weeks. We also have a solar eclipse on the 2nd of October, which is conjunct Mercury in Libra. So that's a 6-month period. So relationships are going to become very, very important over this next 7 months or so. Now, as I mentioned, not everyone is particularly attuned to a personal relationship, but our interactions with one another have become very jagged because of the polarization that goes on in terms of people's viewpoints. And sometimes we get so caught up in defending our values, which is very Taurus, very Venusian in that sense, that we forget that it is a right for people to see something different. And that old saying of agreeing to disagree could be said to be a very Venus in Libra quality. But that ability to build things through listening, through being more attuned to what other people say, through framing our dialogue in a more careful, delicate way, is all good stuff. But also, Venus in Libra can be very much about presentation. And if you're someone who's a dedicated follower of fashion, this could be a great chance to have a look at your wardrobe and decide if there is a need for some upgrading or amendments, because those refinements, the subtle refinements, very Venus in Libra, could be something that actually gives us a new spark. So that's lovely and really exciting. But those social skills, or the interaction, is a good counterpoint to the very precise energy that's manifested at the moment in the sign of Virgo, which can be a bit nitpicky. And Venus making its way through Virgo wasn't at its best, it's in its full. And of course it did go opposite Saturn, and then it went opposite Neptune. So on the screen now, I'm showing the event chart right at the start of this process. This provides an energy for the whole of the 25-day period, but obviously Venus continues to move forwards, and it's going to forge that sensational link on the 15th of September, which I'm going to share with you shortly. But as we begin this journey, Venus is right at the top of the chart, based on Greenwich, not because I'm in the UK, and also Universal Time because of the prime meridian. So Venus in the 10th house suggests we could encounter someone over this next 25 days who has a very refined aura, or a very delicate way of discussing worldly situations. But if you see the position of Pluto, which is supercharging Venus, that's in house 2, resources, which of course Venus rules through its governance of Taurus. So worldly progress can be made if we approach things in a delicate way. And that means, I feel, expressing what we can do for people, but not trying to dominate them. And so that's a useful thing to remember. So this archetype, this chart archetype, plays out for those 25 days, but that's an opportunity. We also may encounter someone who has great taste, is in a position of influence, and we may have a business idea, or we may want to in some ways improve our finances. But if we're talking to someone on the phone, whether it's a bank or some other financial services offering, the relationship we have, the dialogue, will be just as important to the outcome as whatever the actual nuts and bolts of the deal are too. So that's just something to remember. But you can see right at the bottom of the chart we do have that mysterious shift in Neptune. The mystique of Neptune is gorgeous, and as Venus and Neptune have come into an opposition just before this event, maybe someone's entered our world who we are finding somewhat captivating. But how do we work out whether they're good for us or not? Because Mars, the planet of desire, is squaring up to Venus as we go into this new period of Venus's influence in Libra. So that can make us very desirous, and in Gemini can give us a sense of urgency about the communication. So I would say there, don't rush, but particularly with Neptune providing its smokescreen and potential for delusion on Mars, the conversations we have, if we rush them, we actually might totally misunderstand where someone is coming from. Also, Mars is in house 7, which of course Venus rules, sorry, and Jupiter's there too, and Jupiter's being squared off by Saturn still, which became exact on the 19th of August, but they're still in touch within 3 degrees. So again, the way we connect to people, the 7th house, we could have the enthusiasm that comes from Gemini. Don't rush the process, because being mindful of the emotional dimension, Saturn's asking us to take that seriously. Neptune could distort things a little bit, and Mars and Jupiter can see us be over optimistic or rush things. We shouldn't do that. So what we can do is use the energy of Pluto in order to moderate our desires. So I'm showing the event chart from a solar perspective, which we can all relate to. So for sure, Pluto goes into 11, our future, but also how we all interact in terms of the network, as us as a joined up community. And Venus in 7, but we do have the conversational Jupiter and Mars in 3, but Saturn and Neptune both go into house 12. So it's possible, therefore, that our insecurities and fears could get in the way when it comes to business or romantic conversations, and we need to try to manage our thinking, which is very much Gemini and Mars, because on the face of it, they're giving us a burst, but underneath that, there is the potential for things to be said too quickly, rushed, or say things that aren't even true, or some things could come into the open, perhaps to do with deceit around relationships, that may need to really be examined closely. And that's where Pluto is such an ace, because Pluto scrutinizes, it gets beneath the surface. And also in Aquarius, it's a bit more detached. I know it's about to move into the sign of Capricorn on the 2nd of September, but for now, that detachment and coolness, and we can ask the question, if this person I'm relating to now, can I see them being part of my long-term plan? If the answer is no, however much you fancy them, or however much you think they're really good fun to be with, if it's a friendship, then Pluto's just reminding you of the deeper significance. Now please stay with me as I go through each of the 12 signs, but that aspect at the heart of September is between Jupiter and Venus. So the 2 planets of fortune, Jupiter, the greater benefit, and Venus, the lesser benefit, come together fantastically well. So there could be a conversation at the heart of September which really provides a huge amount of uplift, and it just depends on your unique situation and your personal natal chart on exactly how it will impact on you from a broader perspective in terms of the zodiac signs based on Sun, Ascendant, Moon. That's coming next. So Aries, it's interesting that Mars, your ruler, is in the mix, so to speak, because that part of you that can be impulsive, Mars pretty close to Jupiter as well, may have meant over the last couple of weeks that there could have been something that you did very much on instinct, and it may have paid off for you. But equally, because Venus then went into that opposition with Neptune, if you have felt that things have been hazy or someone's been very focused in a picky way on perhaps the things that aren't quite perfect, but not actually fessing up and telling you straight out what the issue is, that could have been really irritating. So one of the things you can do with Venus moving into your 7th house is actually let go of some of that frustration and just reset your posture towards, look, relationships are give and take. We don't get everything we need. And sometimes also the things we do get may not be the things we're totally wanting, but we may get something. And the more we can be a little detached about that and not take it personally, the better it is. And that's where Pluto comes in. And really the defining feature is the same for you as it is for the collective. What do you see as the future? So this particular new transit for you particularly could have quite the impact on your social world as much as a personal relationship. If you're a very good listener, that can certainly be enhanced. If you're someone who's maybe caught up in your world a little more, there could be someone around you who wants you to be more attentive to what their needs are. And of course, with Saturn buried away in your 12th house, along with that shift in elusive Neptune, if there are some old issues or old hurts which are still locked in at the bottom of your being, however much you may be hoping to connect to someone, it may be necessary to really dive down and release them, because energetically that can change the attraction ability that you have to pull something to you if you are wanting to meet somebody fresh in your situation. But if you are in an ongoing relationship, it may be best to just accept. There's obviously a limit to how much we should accept, but as long as that test can be passed, is this person you see for the long term, then it's worth applying yourself. Keep working at it. And that can be true, as I mentioned, of a friendship, a business involvement, a business idea you've got, because remember, Venus is about money too, but in this context, it's very much about how you're relating to others. So Taurus, has someone been absolutely captivating you over the last week or so? It's possible with your ruler Venus in the earthy Virgo in your 5th house, where you've really been able to sparkle, because that opposition to Neptune, although it can be tricky, it can also be magical in a positive way. It just depends on each person's unique situation. Also because Jupiter and Mars are in your 2nd house, which of course is ruled by Venus, they've been making you more desirous of perhaps feeling a connection in a more physical way. So if there is someone who's really been making your pulse race, it may have gone all the way to an intimate connection. But what about the move of Venus into house 6? Because ironically, that espouses more the energy of Virgo. It's more about thoughtful, practical gestures. It's not so much candles and moonlight and enchanted dinners. It's more about understanding the realities of the situation. But the link to Pluto in house 10 suggests there could be a relationship that's developing for you that's not personal in the sense of romance, but it is very important in terms of your work. And that ability you've got of yours to feel things, feel the value in situations, and that earthiness that's so much part of your being, well, that could be very exciting. But if there is someone that you're interested in, with Mars squaring up to Venus, don't spoil them with some kind of huge gesture at this stage. Just let things develop, because one of the lovely things about Venus in Libra is it is about finding that equilibrium, and sometimes that comes from not forcing the pace and just trusting the process. But if there is someone that you're drawn towards, some thoughtful, practical gestures probably will do better than some kind of big, more extravagant move, which may actually, in some ways, make them a little bit uncertain because it could make them feel obligated. So patience is going to be important over these next few weeks, and those awarenesses too, the small but important things we do for one another that can actually create a lot of goodwill. So Gemini, the Sun continues to make its way through the precise sign of Virgo, which is very much about how we feel about things. But Venus moving into your 5th house and also your sister air sign of Libra is gorgeous for you, because this is where we can be more affectionate, playful, demonstrative, maybe even romantic. And of course it depends on your exact circumstances. The fact that Mars and Jupiter are in your sign, they've been giving you a lot of glitter and a lot of extra sex appeal. It's just they've been checked in quite a powerful way recently by both Saturn and Neptune, which has created some complexities because maybe your worldly situation at the moment is not moving quite as fast as you would like. But if you want to inject into your situation some delightful social encounters, meet up with friends, mix and mingling, you have an opportunity to do that now. And that date, the 15th of September, could be really fateful for you, but in an extremely positive way. Cancer, you're known as being the sign with a particular appreciation of the home. But other people of the zodiac who have strong 4th houses can also have that connection to their homes too. But if you are someone who would like to improve the fabric and decorative qualities of your residency, you have a great chance over the next 25 days. But this could mean that if you're somewhere warmer, you could be enjoying an outdoor space a little more, and anything you're doing with your garden could also give you a great deal of pleasure. But wherever you are, feeding your senses, particularly by being in nature or near water, could be lovely. Now the sign of Libra is obviously a communicating sign, and that link with Pluto is interesting. So if you are renovating a property or you're actually moving, whether it's a rental or a purchase, this is a transitional phase, but it's one that's going to help you to feel more rooted in where you're living and make you feel more comfortable. The other thing that can happen with Venus moving into this area is you may yearn for a greater connection to family members, whether you've seen them recently or not. Pluto, remember, is about fate, and it's also about karma. If there has been some kind of interruption in the relationship, it's important with Mars, particularly in your 12th house, if you have got emotions coming up from the past, try to sort them out, try to release them. Holding on to stuff is really not good for us. I think a lot of us do it. It's a very natural thing to do. It's a protective thing. But actually, there's usually a circumstance that shapes people's responses. So Venus here again is asking us to create more equilibrium and peace around our emotional world, but particularly with people that we have been close to in the past. So Leo, it's possible that Venus moving into the sign of Libra is actually going to be very beneficial around your social world. And the reason for that is the 2 players in the sign of Gemini. So though they're forging Mars to Venus and Mars to Neptune and Jupiter to Saturn, more challenging angles, particularly Venus to Mars, can still be a spark. Maybe there's someone that you're finding in your circle rather interesting, perhaps all the way to mesmerizing. And it could be that the dialogue you can have with Venus's help can be delicate. You don't necessarily have to open up too quickly, because protecting your sense of pride is very, very important. If you do show your hand too quickly, it could make you feel very vulnerable. But here's where Pluto can be of such help to you, because It's almost like your connecting point to others, but through the conduit of Pluto, which is very deep. You're not necessarily just going to take what people say at face value. So Pluto can protect you, and it's linked with Venus, but the dazzling link with Mars, although it's a square, could give you an impulse to connect with people more. But the way you express yourself, the words you choose, so whether it is through texting or an instant message or the actual medium that you use to connect to someone, which obviously these days can be technology, but you could find that somebody, even someone you know, could find how you express yourself just as captivating as actually what you're saying, because the tonal aspects of Venus in the third house are really important. You probably find that a lot of singers and a lot of people who may be broadcasters would have Venus in the third house, because the way that we say things can be so impactful on building up connections. So some kind of very powerful connection, socially or romantically, is certainly possible, and there is the potential to meet someone through a group situation, a friend of a friend, right at the heart of September with that dazzling trine to Jupiter. So Virgo, for you, Venus moving into your second solar house can be absolutely gorgeous. But of course the opposition that's been going on with Venus in your sign opposite Neptune means that maybe you've been unsure about the impact you've been having on someone, or is someone proving to be a little mystical that you've been connecting to. And so much has been going on in terms of your desire to raise your profile, Mars and Jupiter. Perhaps your professional world has been taking prominence at the moment, but the move of Venus into Libra could trigger an uplift in your income, particularly the link to Pluto. So there could be an offer that comes pretty quickly that actually really delights you. But conversely, if money does come in, it can be more difficult to hold on to it, because the second house is Venus's more Taurian energy, and our desire to enjoy the good things in life is certainly amped up too. So if you have been on quite a disciplined diet, one that you want to continue to be on, you could find that your resistance is very low over the next 25 days. But if you are wanting to improve your lot when it comes to the loot, right at the heart of September the 15th, as Venus and Jupiter forge a magical alliance, that also can be a time when something comes home for you in a way which could prove to be very favourable indeed. So Libra, Venus returning home is gorgeous for you, because the opposition between Venus in your 12th house and Neptune in the 6th may have really been quite draining. You may have found it difficult to really be very clear about what people's intentions have been, whether it's around a professional situation or around a romance. But Venus moving into your own sign is certainly a great chance to think about how you present yourself. And you often have impeccable taste in terms of fabrics and colours and combinations. But that doesn't mean to say that occasionally it's not a nice thing to change things up, because that can give us a reset. But Venus in your own sign could see, particularly if you're single, more than one person beating a path to your celestial door through to the 23rd of September. And also, right at the heart of September, the 15th, Venus in your sign forges a fantastic link with Jupiter in your 9th house. If you are single and you would like to meet someone, it could be someone who's very worldly or has a more philosophical approach to life, or who's travelled a lot, very educated, may come from a completely different cultural background to you, but you could find yourselves really connecting. But your ability to present yourself in a very coquettish, charming and alluring way is certainly turned up to max now for the next 25 days. Enjoy the extra attention, and if you have gone through a disappointing phase, or someone has really let you down in terms of their sincerity or trust, and you're needing to draw a line in the sand, this is a great time to do it. or if you have been doing a lot of soul searching about a relationship but have decided to continue, now can be the spark point to move forwards again. So, Scorpio, Venus moving into your 12th house could make you very nostalgic for someone from your past. But equally, in a current situation, if you have felt that someone's been so elusive that you really don't know if you're coming and going, entirely possible with Venus's recent opposition to Neptune, which persists as we go into this new phase. It's important that you do give yourself time to just step back, because trust, reliability, and sincerity are essential ingredients for a really solid relationship. So if you feel that you do need some more time for yourself, just to mull these things over, don't feel that you have to justify this too much. I mean, obviously you need to communicate it. Venus in Libra is about communication, as is your modern ruler Pluto in Aquarius. But even if you're needing to say, look, I just need some time out to examine this, understand what I need from the situation, as long as you keep the other person informed, that's cool. But as I say, for some people there could be a big sense of connection to the memory. You may even find yourself scrolling through social media to find out what someone's doing. If you are thinking about a reunion of any kind, it doesn't have to be in a totally romantic way. It could prove to be great fun, particularly at the heart of September, whether it's old colleagues or college friends, because Venus in the 12th house can reconnect us. But essentially it's a very soulful position. It's very much about sincerity, and it could be about coming to a firm conclusion on an ending, which of course is a transition that can be painful, even around a bad relationship, which once we're free of can be a good thing. The process is rarely easy. So all of those things are possible over the next 25 days for you. So Sagittarius, Venus has made its way into the most sociable part of your scope. With Pluto in the 3rd house for a few more days, essentially that's how you think, your beliefs, also your connections on an everyday basis. There may be a connection with a friend, someone that you have a rapport with, but actually it's a very meaningful rapport. So if you're meeting up with a group of people that you have a spark with, you can have some fun, they're entertaining, but also there are some good conversations, because very often you are interested in the big picture in a way that other people aren't. And of course you do have Mars and Jupiter in your 7th house, and Jupiter's going to be opening up that window of opportunity around relationships through to the early part of June next year. So the more you can interact, mix and mingle, meet up, the more you're improving your chances around connections. But the connections need to work for you in terms of the lessons that Saturn has been teaching over the last 17 months or so. So things need to feel right. And Saturn's therefore moderating your ruler Jupiter on this event. So just bear that in mind too. But the chance to have some sunny fun and also some charming connections is definitely possible for the next 25 days. So Capricorn, you often take a very sober approach to situations, but there's been some conversations over the last week which have left you intrigued. If there is somebody that you're feeling more and more of a solid connection to, Venus moving right to the top of your chart could be seeing you both thinking about how you can solidify this relationship in some kind of more serious way. Now that could be about living together, it could be about buying or renting a property together, it could be about sharing your happy news with your families. But equally, the 10th house where Venus has moved into can be about goals and ambitions in the worldly context, and particularly professionally. But not everybody is wanting to pursue that. Some people's ambitions are around their interests, hobbies, local interactions, their grandchildren. But wherever you're feeling very active in terms of your connection to the world, your people skills can really help you to make progress in a major way over this next 25 days. And it could be good for you financially too. So if there is someone that you're trying to cultivate, that's an important contact, that's in a position of influence, using diplomacy will be better than trying to force the pace. And because Uranus is giving you some very fresh perspectives at the moment in a helpful way, but Jupiter and Mars could see you a little impatient if things aren't rocking along at quite the pace you want. Just be aware that your ruler Saturn is a very moderated influence at the best of times, and that's saying that you could feel some frustration. So if your professional or worldly hopes aren't going quite at the speed of light, just know that it's your ability to cultivate relationships in a steady, reliable way which actually is going to win you plaudits. But the same can be true of your love life as well as your local interactions. So Aquarius, you've had the wonderful combination of Mars and Jupiter bubbling away in your fifth house of passion, romance, affection and sociability. Now that's not to say they haven't encountered some resistance, not least from your traditional ruler Saturn, which has been encouraging you to slow things down and not be too hasty, particularly when it comes to big benevolent gestures. But as Venus moves into Libra, what it has been doing has been in a complex opposition with Neptune. And whether it's around business or personal finances and trying to get clarity with whoever you're relating to, or it's in an existing relationship, or you've been drawn towards someone as much as you find them captivating, you can't quite work out what they're about. What Venus is encouraging you to do is think, because you're an air sign, and Pluto's informing this too, think in a powerful, meaningful way, Pluto, about the truth of whatever's going on in any of these particular situations, because the ninth house is about those higher truths. So whether you need to come to the realization that conversation and clarity is never going to flow well with one particular person you like, whether you're involved with them or you'd like to be involved with them, or it's a business situation that seems to be really bogged down in some kind of gluey mush that's hard to get any traction from, go back to the clarity, because that gives you a sense of confidence. But equally, Venus moving into your ninth house could see you absolutely captivated. If you're travelling over the next 3 weeks or so, you could find someone dazzling that you connect with, and particularly at the heart of September, when Venus and Jupiter forge such an amazing link. But nearer to home, it could be that you connect to someone who shares your ideals, or someone from a different cultural background. It just really gives you a sense of being alive, because they're not so ingrained in just the same old, same old. So Pisces, you may have experienced something really quite special over the last week, as Venus in your sector of relating has gone face to face with your ruler Neptune. But when I say something very special, it needs to have been with someone very special, because equally you could have connected to someone who had the promise of being very special, and maybe you're on the cusp of finding out whether they can actually deliver on that. And the reason for that is Venus moving into 8, house 8, is when Venus dives deep. You've had the conversations, they may have been quite charming, they may have been promising. Venus in 8 is, are they all in? Are they devoted or going to be devoted in the way that you want? Or in an existing relationship, are you going to test out someone's commitment and devotion? But house 8 in a more practical way, very much the Taurus energy, could see you benefit from a partner's lucky fortune around money, or it could be linked to a legacy, inheritance, a pension or policy payout, and that actually can thrill you. There could also be good news around a property matter right at the heart of September, the 15th, which can absolutely thrill you. But you could find yourself needing to dive deep now to understand the true significance of certain conversations and certain interactions that have gone on recently. Some have given you great cause for hope, some may have been a little dispiriting, but it all needs to feed back to how you feel about things. If it feels right and the other person has the same intent as you, you could lock into something very special over the next 3 weeks, but equally you could want to break away if it's not being met with the same commitment and devotion on the other side. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for joining me for this Venus in Libra special. Please check out that very special Matchful.me app, and also my year 2025 special horoscope forecast offer by clicking on the link beneath this video.